Rajoy has said that he's calling for calm, and he says the rule of law will be restored in Catalonia. Strong reactions there from Madrid.
That's right. He's actually put that out in a personal tweet. As you say, I'm asking for calm from all Spaniards. The state of law will restore legality to Catalonia. He signs the MR to make clear that that's not his team of tweeters sending it out. It is a personal message from him. Of course, he was speaking earlier in the Senate, passing through measures for Article 155, which would take back powers from the Catalan government and restore the normality of the institutions, as Rajoy put it. This, in a way, justifies that position because he's been arguing that he has been trying to get Carlos Puigdemont to dialogue properly within the Spanish constitution. But the Declaration more even though it has some ambiguities in it, it makes Rajoy's case that he had to react quickly perhaps more strong than it might have been had there been no declaration of independence by the parliament. We've also seen a reaction from Esteban González Pons, who is a PP member of the European Parliament, the same party as Mariano Rajoy's Conservative Party. And he actually says that what has gone on in the Catalan Parliament today is a coup, and it's a coup that was very similar to the 1981 coup. Of course, the 1981 coup was different in the sense that officers burst into the Spanish parliament and held the MPs up at gunpoint until eventually the king appealed on them and they returned to the barracks and the coup was diffused. But that's the sort of feeling that many Spaniards have, that this is a coup, a part of Spain and a group of politicians that want to rip up the 1978 constitution and want to do their own thing. The feeling from many Spaniards is that that is illegal and that it needs to be stopped.
Sarah, Annette Young here. One thing, as you know, I'm fairly familiar with the province of Andalusia, and I was there in the last week. And the thing that struck me was the number of Spanish flags that were flying across rooftops in a part of Spain which normally wouldn't be showing such patriotism. I mean, again, indicating the level of support that Madrid does seem to have from the rest of Spain as to how to deal with this issue of Catalonia.
Indeed, those Spanish flags that you mentioned, they've popped up everywhere. I've been impressed or struck by them myself in Madrid because the Spanish flag was always associated with the far right. It was seen as something that you didn't really get out unless it was a football game. And it began being used really when Spain won the World Cup back in 2010. But now people have been unashamedly putting up those Spanish flags in response to what they see going on in Catalonia. And they see a lot of not just the Catalan flag, but they see particularly the independence flag, which has the star on it. It's not the usual Catalan flag. And ordinary people felt they had to react to that. The feeling is really that in some ways the Catalan nationalists were carrying out a giant bluff, threatening independence to move ahead eventually with settling for getting more taxes and the ability to raise taxes and retain them themselves. So the rest of Spain feel a little bit that this is a wealthy region that has a high degree of autonomy and is trying to keep a larger share of the money, which in a redistribution of wealth system should be going to poorer people. And of course, Andalusia, Extremadura has some of the poorest people and highest unemployment in Spain. So they feel that they do need it and deserve it. Ironically, of course, there was massive immigration to Catalonia from Andalusia, particularly in the 50s, 60s and 70s. And so the opposition in Catalonia has made that point a lot. Yesterday, we saw them holding up the Andalusian flag in the Catalan parliament and saying the Catalan independence movement is racist. It wants to drive out people whose parents were born elsewhere in Spain, and that it's breaking up the harmony of everybody living together peacefully.
Sarah, the other issue, of course, is where does this leave the European Union? Of course, the EU, having been somewhat distant, or rather distancing itself from having any involvement in this issue, arguing that this is a matter for a sovereign state to be involved. However, given the pace of what's happening with these developments and the fact that it does have the capacity to spiral downwards very quickly, do you see perhaps a growing request for the EU to become more involved, in fact, to step up and, in fact, mediate in this situation?
There has been a continual call from the Catalan government, from Carles Puigdemont, for mediation from the European Union. But Jean-Claude Juncker, the European Commission president, has rejected that and said that this is an issue between Catalans and between Spaniards, and that it has to be settled domestically. His fear really is that starting to mediate or to get involved with issues that are of a national competence could open up a Pandora's box, really. And he's been quite frank about what he feels could happen if Spain does break up. He said he doesn't want a European Union with 95 countries. He said that would be unmanageable, because there's lots of other countries that have similar independence movements within them, and that could copy the Catalan example. So I don't expect the European Union to be eager to jump into this, but I know that the Catalan government has a real strong lobby that they have going on in Brussels. They team up with the Scottish nationalists, with the Flemish nationalists, with any other nationalists that have a similar agenda, getting this on the European stage, because that may be the easiest way to get guarantees, particularly because the party of Carles Puigdemont has consistently promised its voters that an independent Catalonia would remain within the European Union. And that is something that is clearly a risk that they would have to reapply. That's the line from the European Union leaders and the Commission. And many of those voters we see in opinion polls would change their attitude about an independent Catalonia if they thought there was any risk that they could end up outside the European common market.
Sarah Morris, thank you so much reporting there from Spain.